Is for Allah, nothing but Allah. Ba is the beginning of Bismillah. Ta is for taqwa, bewaring of Allah. And Tha is for thawab, a reward. Ja is for Jannah, the garden of paradise. Ha is for Hajj, the blessed pilgrimage. Kha is for Khatam, the seal of the prophethood given to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this new episode of Ask Zad, coming to you live from Zad Studios here in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. The first email we have for today is from Brother Hassan, and he's asking a frequently asked question, and his question is watching horror movies haram? Now, the question seems simple enough to a lot of us. However, instead of giving you a fish every day, let me try to teach you how to fish. In order to answer such a question, is watching horror movies haram? Is it prohibited to watch horror movies? Or if we make it a little bit more generic, is it prohibited to watch movies in general? Now, how would I answer such a question? Is it something that one shoots from the hip? Or one has to look into this question through the Quran and the Sunnah? Definitely, as Muslims, it is not my logic or your logic that governs such. What governs an answer is what Allah Azza wa Jal told us in the Quran and what our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told us in the authentic Sunnah. I don't think there's any difference of opinion between us in this regard. Any Muslim would definitely legislate and refer to the Quran and Sunnah whenever there's a dispute. Otherwise, he's not a Muslim. Agreed? Agreed. I hope. I can't hear you, but I'm assuming you're saying agreed. So let us look at movies in general. In movies, you have soundtracks, which means there's music. In movies, generally speaking, there is free mixing, which means that there are men and women acting. And most likely, there will be partial nudity or a lot of nudity. In movies, especially in horror movies, there is a great amount of violence, of crime being committed, and sometimes the criminal wins and they go for a sequel showing how ruthless the criminal was and how he managed to survive for so many part 1, 2, 3, etc. So if we go to the Quran and Sunnah, we see that Allah Azza wa Jalla orders us to lower the gaze and not to look freely. So I cannot watch a woman freely and enjoy what I'm doing and having fun, especially if she is inappropriately dressed. Listening to the music is haram, and this is the consensus of the 4 schools of thought. You cannot be one of a 5th school of thought. You have to be a follower of one of them at least. And inciting violence, encouraging people to commit crime. No sound Muslim in his sound mind would say that this is okay. And this is why we prevent our children from watching such movies. In short, watching movies is haram for these reasons, and because of the frequent dangers resulting of it, and because it is sinful, waste of time, waste of money, and above all, it dilutes your religion, your iman, and makes it so thin. Shuaib from the Emirates.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Salam rahmatullah. Apologies for making you wait.
It's completely all right. How are you, Sheikh?
I'm fine, Akhil Habib. What can I do for you?
Sir, I have a question. It's a little long, but please give me some time. It's very important for me to know this. Just 2 minutes. I might not take longer, inshallah.
Okay.
I hope I can frame it properly. My question is, sir, that can you just explain me that should a Muslim, I'm sure Muslims should look for Quran and Sunnah. Guidance is in both. But I mean specifically fiqh, not Sunnah. What I mean is that Quran calls itself Al-Huda, complete guidance. Yet Muslims seem to be more deviated. People talk more about the fiqh issues. And what I mean is, why I have this question is because I saw two guys. They were actually fighting over the length of the beard. And they were arguing about it. And to an extent that the one called him a disbeliever. And then then I was just asking them, why can't you just speak gentle and kind words? Because this is what there is in the Quran. Nobody talks about the ayahs and the verses of the Quran. It's like it's made sure that Muslims should be indulged in fighting over these issues, and nobody comes back to the Quran. No one talks about how to understand it, internalize it, and implement it. I'm just a little confused because, yes, hadith is very important, and because that guides us how to worship properly. But Muslims don't talk about the verses of the ayahs, and they don't talk about the understanding of the ayahs. There was one guy who told me that it's not obligatory to recite the Quran. You will only be asked about your prayers and your duties and the 5 pillars and how you treated people. Allah Ta'ala is not going to ask you about whether you read the Quran. Then what is the ultimate purpose of the Quran? What rights does Quran have upon us as Muslims? What are we supposed to do, and what is the purpose of the Quran? Just this I wanted to clarify.
Very, very clear. I will answer you, inshallah. Asif from India.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salamtullah.
Sheikh, I have one question.
Yes, Mahir.
In fact, it is my brother's question. It is regarding, for example, he has a flat and he has an option of a guy's ready to take the flat, and he will be paying like some big amount. You can say like
deposit.
Amount he will pay in the beginning. Yeah, deposit, correct. But onwards he will not pay the rent. And till the time they are in agreement, my brother will use the money and he will avail the house. Once their contract is expired, depending on the mutual agreement, then my brother will give him complete amount. So is it permissible? I hope it is not, but still elaboration I need from my brother.
Okay, I will answer you, inshallah.
Okay, jazakallah.
Wajazak, barakallah fi. Okay. Brother Shuaib from the Emirates had a very good question. See, the question is what we revolve around in our lectures, in our programs, in everything we do. But there is a twist. So in essence, Shuaib is saying that the Muslims, and he's generalizing, and this is wrong, but I'm just quoting. He says that the Muslims are always indulging in disputes over fiqh issues and neglecting the Quran. And he quotes one who said that if you don't recite the Quran, you will not be questioned on or accountable on the day of judgment. Allah Azza wa Jalla will hold you accountable only for salat, siyam, etc. And he's saying that one or two of the people were discussing about the length of the beard, to the extent that one of them said to the other that you're a disbeliever, you're a kafir, over such a dispute. So he is alarmed by this. And he's saying, why is this happening and taking place when we have the perfect guidance from Allah, which is the Quran? Now, I agree with you, Shuaib, to a great extent. What I disagree is the attempt, intentionally or I'm presuming it's unintentionally, to isolate the Quran. See, the Quran is a book of guidance, but it cannot work by itself. Otherwise, Allah would have revealed a copy of the Quran for each and every one of us. It had to be revealed to the best of Allah's creation, who is Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He is our role model. He is the best of examples. He portrayed the Quran in his character, in the way he explained Islam to us. Without his sunnah and teachings, we cannot comprehend and implement fully the Quran. Coming back to your question, I am not responsible for the wrong understanding of the ummah or parts of it. So if you see two ignorant people, two imbeciles, disputing over something that is not mentioned in the Quran, and they do not have the necessary knowledge to back it up, to the extent that one of them gives takfir to the other, this is not my problem. This is not the Sunnah's problem. This is not the scholars of fiqh problem. This is the problem of individuals, how they were brought up, the community, the media, the political drive, all govern how people react. Scholars, da'is, students of knowledge are going out of the way to teach the Quran, to teach the Sunnah, and to uplift the people from such ignorance and to purify their hearts from grudges, enmity, hatred, etc. Now, if they do not comply, this is something that has to be fixed, but it is not because they are studying the Quran, the Sunnah, or they are researching in fiqh. It has nothing to do with that. So my concern, Shaib, is nowadays we see this trend, and there are some da'is who come in the open, in their lectures, holding the Quran, saying this is the Quran. We have nothing to stick with or abide by except the Quran, and they ridicule, if not, well, ridicule is a little bit big. Let me retract that. They disregard the Sunnah. They disregard issues of Aqeedah. They may make fun of Tawheed, saying that it is not in the Quran. A serious issue. We always tell people to abide by the Quran. We always quote verses of the Quran before we speak over any issue, if there is an evidence in the Quran. So this is the norm, but it has to be understood through the Sunnah. It has to be understood through sound, authentic Aqeedah. Otherwise, a person would be deviated. So I fully agree with you in terms that the Ummah has to abide by the Quran and the Sunnah. They have to learn their religion, and above all, they have to purify their character, the way they deal with people and the way they understand the deen, in order to be righteous, practicing Muslims. What use is the knowledge if I'm knowledgeable, but I'm not truly practicing, if I'm not righteous, if I do not treat my servants, my spouse, my children, my neighbors, my relatives, my colleagues in a way that is notable, and people would say, MashaAllah, this is Islam, then there is an error that has to be fixed. But we cannot blame the message. We may blame the messengers, those who pretend to be implementing Islam, and they're tarnishing its reputation through their character, and Allah knows best. Abu Safwan from Kuwait.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Salam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, I have a question.
Yes.
When this Aqama is called, when the prayer is standing, obviously we have to recite the same words like Allah Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah. But when he reaches at Qad qamatis salah, Qad qamatis salah, can we say in return, Aqamallahu adamaha? Is it the right thing?
Okay.
Okay, that's my question.
I will answer,
Thank you.
inshallah.
Jazakallah.
Barakallah fi. Asif from India has a question about his brother's property. And this is very common in India, and apparently people are picking it up. What is it It's a person who has a house. The rent of the house is, for example, let's say 25,000 rupees a month. And someone comes and says, I'd like to rent your house, but I don't want to pay any rent. Instead, I'll give you 10 million rupees as a deposit. And I live in the house maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years. And at the end of my term, when I'm leaving, you pay me back my deposit. So me, as a landlord, instead of getting 25,000 rupees a month, I'm getting this chunk of money that I can build something with, or I can operate business, invest, do something with it. So to me, it's a good deal. So I give him the property and I take the money. After 3 years, when he wants to leave, I give him back the money. Is this halal? The answer is no. Why? This is not a deposit. Actually, this is an interest-based loan. The man is giving me 5 million rupees or 10 million rupees as a deposit. It's not a deposit. It's a loan that I can do whatever I want on the condition that I shall return it at the end of his stay, 2 years, 3 years, whenever he wants to leave. He's not paying any rent. Or if he pays, he would pay like 200 rupees a month, something that is totally negligible. This is a loan. Okay, where is the interest? Where is the riba? The riba is that he's utilizing my house for a year, 2 or 3, without paying anything. So this is the interest that he's getting over the loan that I had borrowed from him, and this is haram. Abu Safwan from Kuwait says, we know that we have to repeat when the mu'adhin gives iqamah for salat. And the answer is, before he asks the question, this is wrong. What you know, Abu Safwan, is totally wrong. The Prophet ﷺ ordered us to repeat after the mu'adhin when he's calling for the adhan. But there is nothing in the sunnah that states that we should or we are encouraged to repeat after the iqamah. And hence your question, when the mu'adhin says, قَدْ قَامَتِ الصَّلَاةُ وَقَدْ قَامَتِ الصَّلَاةُ, should we say, أَقَامَهَا اللَّهُ وَأَدَامَهَا? There is a hadith, but the hadith is weak. So we do not implement it. And as stated earlier, you do not say anything when the mu'adhin is giving the iqamah. Hassan says, if someone is fasting and sleeps throughout the day after praying Fajr and wakes up just before Maghrib, then prays the missing prayers, which is Dhuhr, Asr, and then he does iftar, he breaks his fasting, then he prays Maghrib and Isha, both in the masjid. Will his fast remain valid? First of all, there is no connection between his fast and his prayer. His fasting, because he intended to fast before dawn, and he actually fasted until sunset, though he was asleep most of the time, or if not all of it, yet the fasting still is considered to be fasting, is valid. Missing Dhuhr and Asr prayer, it seems that he prayed Asr just before sunset, which means that he prayed it on time. Missing Dhuhr, if this was due to a legitimate reason, meaning that he had overslept and they tried to wake him up but he wouldn't, in this case he's not sinful. He's sinful for staying awake all night. He's sinful for that because he missed these prayers in the masjid as Allah Azza wa Jal ordered him to do. But this is a different issue. So the fasting is valid. Now, I understand that he prayed Maghrib in masjid, and then he prayed Isha along with the Taraweeh as well. So this is, and again, there is no problem in, or any connection between missing the prayer of Dhuhr and Asr and the validity of his salat and Allah and of his fasting, and Allah knows best. Shihab from the UK.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. How are you?
Assalamu barakatuh. Hayyak Allah.
Sheikh, basically, I know that we should understand the Quran by the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But what if some people would say that we don't speak Arabic and the translation are human work, there are errors, so how can we rely on them? And
regarding understanding the Quran or understanding the Sunnah?
No, like the tafsir, for example, how can we should understand the Quran if we don't understand the Arabic language?
Okay.
So they would say like people make up the translations, and so.
So what do they recommend?
How can we deal?
What do they recommend? If you don't understand Arabic and all what we have is this material in English, those people who say they might have twisted or altered or changed the tafsir, etc. What do they recommend? That we don't read the Quran at all?
Yeah, for example, yeah.
Okay, I will answer.
How should we reply to these types of people?
Inshallah.
Okay, Jazak.
Wa jazak. We have a short break. Stay tuned, and inshallah, we'll be right back.
Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I'm going to talk about the book Interactions of the Greatest Leader. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam reminded us through his guidance and example that Islam is complete submission to the will of Allah. For one who submits, a mere declaration or display of belief will not be taken for success, but his or her heart and soul will certainly be put to test. Allah tested the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam severely in order that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam becomes an example for his companions to follow. Similarly, he tests the believer to see whether he lives a righteous life in accordance with the instructions and commands set by Allah, or lives according to what his desires dictate. Whether the faith he displays is firmly rooted in his heart, or is it merely on the surface. He will be tested to see whether he will continue to have faith and love of Allah when in a calamity, as he does when in comfort, whether he will continue to remember and worship him if given bounties and comforts of life, as he does when he lives a modest life. Allah will ultimately test him to see if his faith, trust and love of him is unconditional, or is it conditioned upon good health and a comfortable life, free from stress and anxiety. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed us through his own example that for a righteous Muslim, this life is a testing ground where he will continue to be tested. He meets Allah. For him, tests will be conducted on earth while he lives, and not after he dies. He knows that as soon as death arrives and he steps into the next world, his tests are over. There, he only receives the result of his tests and enjoys the fruits of the deeds that he committed during a short span of time called life.
Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. Fajr. Fajr is talking about a situation where she is the youngest in her family, and her family are so indulged in innovation that whenever she tries to correct them, they argue with her and they say that you have become extreme and most likely a Wahhabi, so they claim. And they claim that she goes on the internet researching the wrong path. what should she do? First of all, our Prophet ﷺ is our role model. He did not have his path filled with flowers. He suffered a lot from his closest relatives and people. His own tribe shunned him and did unspeakable things. This did not prevent him from continuing and being steadfast on the straight path. And this is how you as a Muslim should be. You should be tolerant. You should be kind. You should be patient. You should be smiling all the time. Don't take it personally. These people are ignorant. It's like a dentist with a patient who is in pain and agony. No matter what he does, the patient is going to shout and scream and maybe kick and punch and do things. If the dentist became angry as he is and started cursing or swearing or even hitting his patient, this is a lost cause. So, being the youngest, you have to be more tolerant. Learn and do your homework and do your research and learn how to reply to them in the kindest and most diplomatic way, quoting only Quran and authentic Sunnah, and that is it. Never use scholars' names so that they would not label you. They follow XYZ scholars of their own deviant beliefs. So if you use other names, they will call you Wahhabi or a Salafi or whatever. So don't use scholars' names. Just simply quote the Quran and show it to them, and quote the authentic Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. If they claim that they love him, they must follow him. And if they don't listen, you have done your duty in front of Allah Azza wa Jal. Keep on making dua for them and keep on trying your level best to choose the time to give them da'wah. Try as well not to give them da'wah when they are together. If there are 5 or 6 of them and you give them da'wah, they will all be against you. But if you choose one-to-one, person to person, then convincing that person, you have more chances of doing so rather than when you are addressing 5 who would all compete in showing how ridiculous your argument is and to look down at you. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Dr. Atif Khan, he says, I've settled in a city quite far from my place of birth, which is 300 kilometers away. And I do visit my mother quite often in the city of my birth. I've been offering full salah at both places. Am I right in doing so? First of all, Dr. Atif, this depends on your situation. If you've migrated, if you have moved out completely from your birthplace, and now you've settled down in this new city, so you're no more going back to live there. For example, someone who was born in Birmingham, UK, moved out, and now he lives in London. So when we talk to the brother, Akhi, you're residing in London now? He said, yes. So is it going to be like 10, 15 years until you save some money and then move back to Birmingham? And he says, no. I moved out totally. I just go once every couple of months to visit my family. But I've moved out. I'm not going back to Birmingham. If this is the case, Dr. Atif, in your case, when you go and visit your birth town, if you go and visit your mom, then you shorten your prayers and you have the permission to combine Dhuhr with Asr or Maghrib with Isha whenever there is a need to do so, because you are considered to be a traveler. But if it's the second scenario, which is that, no, I've relocated 300 kilometers away from my birthplace, hoping that after 5, 10, 15, or 20 years, I'll get the chance to go back, to my birthplace? In this case, no. You have to pray full in both cities, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Sufyan says that a friend is asking if uncovering the right shoulder is obligatory during Umrah. First of all, Sufyan's question is about a revert. And this brother, the revert, has tattoos all over his right shoulder and parts of his back. He was a kafir. So is he held questionable on the Day of Judgment? Not at all. This was a sin done before accepting Islam. Once you accept Islam, everything is easy. All your bad deeds that you've done before accepting Islam, killing, stealing, whatever heinous crimes you've done, it is all erased. Once you say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh, and you believe with your heart that there is no God worthy of being worshipped except Allah the Almighty, and that His messenger, Muhammad, peace and praise of Allah be upon him, is His servant and messenger, this means that you've become a Muslim, and by default, all of your bad deeds have been erased, if not transformed into good deeds, as mentioned in Surah Al-Furqan. So the brother says, whenever I go to Mecca, if I follow the Sunnah, and we know that the Sunnah is to cover your shoulders until you reach Mecca. Just before you start the tawaf, the Kaaba, the Sunnah is to expose your right shoulder and covering your left. So the brother says that whenever I go and implement this Sunnah during tawaf, people touch my tattoos and say that this is haram, this is not permissible, you're sinful, you do it. And may Allah reward them. They're doing this thinking that they are advising him for the sake of Allah and that he may not know the ruling. But this is not the case. I have tattoos, I cannot remove them. Okay, I was sinful, but I was not a Muslim. Now it's a different story. Anyhow, so the brother is agitated, irritated, and he is not at ease when he goes to Mecca. So he's saying that in order to avoid such comments, can I cover my right shoulder? The answer is yes, no problem. It is not an obligation. It is not part of the pillars of tawaf or the pillars of umrah, and therefore there is nothing at all on you. Cover it and go and make umrah as much as you wish, inshallah. A brother says, Sheikh, is there any ruqyah or advice against wiswas? He performs fard ghusl and it takes him 45 minutes. And fard wudu takes him about 5 minutes. While if it is a normal ghusl, it takes him 12 minutes, and the wudu, he is spending so much time because he believes that he has to pour water over all parts in both ghusl and wudu. And he rubs them all many times, and he is fed up with all of this, so he's asking what to do. Well, these whispers of shaitan, and sometimes they are OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. So a person turns to be an OCD patient because of the lack of knowledge. Knowledge evaporates all your doubts and whispers of shaitan if you have the proper knowledge. Those who have wiswas, and I get tens of calls a day from such people, if they acquire proper knowledge, they will be in a better place. But they fail or they don't want to. Making ghusl, fard ghusl, in 45 minutes, how many liters are you wasting, my friend? How much water is being thrown and wasted down the drain? Making wudu in 5 minutes, if you knew the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, you would not have done this. The amount of water used in performing ablution or wudu by the Prophet ﷺ was approximately 700 milliliters, give or take. So approximately 3/4 of a liter. You're talking about this amount of water. About. If you had knowledge, then you would have noticed that turning on the tap and just washing and washing and washing, that this is not from the sunnah and that you are sinful for doing this. The Prophet ﷺ used to perform ghusl by washing his hair and his entire body with water, with a sa'. And this is less than 3 liters of water. You're using tons of water, my friend. So there is no way for you to reduce the amount of waswas except by knowledge and to acknowledge that what you're doing is wrong. Not only that, but sinful as well. So you have to time yourself. No one said that you have to rub. Rubbing is not essential for wudu or for ghusl. As long as the water has passed, this is sufficient. If you put little of water in your hand and you do this, this does the job. It's been washed. You don't have to pour water and watch it fall and waste liters after liters. So you have to acquire knowledge. If you want to recite ruqyah, and there is no problem in that, recite the Fatiha 3 times to 5 times, blowing on water after each time. Ayatul Kursi, same number. The last 2 ayahs of Surah Al-Baqarah, same number of times, 3 to 5. And the last 3 quls, Ikhlas, Falaq, and An-Nas. And you drink from that water, inshallah, you'll be as good as new. We have Muhammad from Saudi Arabia.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Listen to me from the phone, please, and mute your television.
Allah Jazaak khair. I want to ask about, actually okay.
Yes, Muhammad.
Actually, I meet many friends in the world, non-Muslim. I want to guide him for Islam. I need the correct way. Jazakum Allah khair.
Wa jazak. Okay. Looking at my pad, we forgot totally Shihab. Shihab called us from the UK just before the break, and after the break, I totally forgot. So Shihab is saying that there are people, and in the UK, you have a lot of people that are in need of da'wah. Because each Tom, Dick, and Harry has his own way of understanding Islam. And rarely they would listen to the great da'is in the UK, the great brothers who are upon manhaj Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, who are following the authentic hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. And I've been there so many times in my life in the UK, and I've met their people, and mashallah, alhamdulillah, it is flourishing. And the proper da'wah is picking up pace. But there are here and there deviants who throw and cast doubts. Among them, Brother Shihab is saying that people are casting doubts in saying that the Quran is only for the Arabs, and those who do not understand Arabic will not utilize it. Hence, Islam is not appropriate and not suitable for non-Arabs. And this is false. And this is a claim that has no basis. Islam is the fastest spreading religion in the world. And you can take that to the bank. You can quote this. Islam is the fastest spreading religion. And it is spreading without any military backup. There are no countries spreading Islam or promoting it or advocating it. Unfortunately, even the Muslim countries are retreating into their own shell and raising the white flag saying we have nothing to do with Islam. It's not us. So Islam is being spread through the actions of the Muslims. People are seeing something they like. They read the Quran, the translation that is, the meanings of the Quran, and they say it is talking to me. They read the seerah, the biography of the Prophet ﷺ, and say, wow, this is out of this world. They read the legislative system of Islam and say, this is perfect. If it was 15 centuries ago, and it's still suitable for today and for centuries to come, this is God-given. It's not man-made. So Islam is the fastest spreading religion worldwide. You cannot stop it. And today, though they have the media with them, they say every single day and night, Islam is a religion of violence. Islam subjugates women. Islam does this. Islam does that. They have this machine of the media working for them. Nobody's buying it. So who's forcing Islam down people's throats? No one. Do we go and tell people, hey, listen, this is cash money, accept Islam? Or do we go and hold them at gunpoint and say, accept Islam or I'll blow your brains off? Nothing. So this is the religion of Allah Azza wa Jal. These deviant people are trying to confuse you. Islam is a religion that would be significant for you if you know Arabic. It will give you definitely a strong boost. But if you don't, you're still a proper Muslim, a good practicing Muslim, and you'll end up in paradise, inshallah. So they want you to stop whatever you're doing that is good, that is beneficial, and that is Islamic. And how to do this? By casting these doubts. Allah Azza wa Jal has pledged upon himself to protect this religion, to protect the Quran, to protect the Sunnah. And till date, this pledge is still standing and the religion is protected. So do not listen to them. These people do not want anything good to happen to you or to the Muslims. All what they want to do is to make Muslims come out from the straight path and maybe get confused and leave their religion. And I hope this answers your question. Muhammad from Saudi Arabia, he says, I know a lot of non-Muslims. How can I call them to Islam? Muhammad, this is a very wide topic. Calling people to Islam is not one size that fits all. It's not a glove that we can wear. Each one is different, and this is why we have 5 different fingers. So one I can call to Islam through showing him the scientific signs of Islam. Another is impressed by the legislative system, the Sharia law. A third is fascinated by the family system in Islam and the role of parents and how we respect and adore them and the kinship, salat al-rahim, etc. A fourth is the monetary system of Islam, where riba is prohibited, gambling is prohibited, bay' al-gharar. There are different types of transactions that protect me and you and the whole community. So you cannot say, how can I ask people to come into Islam, or how can I give them da'wah? People differ. The most important thing is that you become a real Muslim. You cannot call people to Islam when you yourself are not practicing it. So you tell people intoxicants, yani khamr and etc., whiskey is haram, and you drink. You cannot tell them that riba is cursed in the Quran and you have your money in a time fixed deposit account. You cannot tell them that you must lower your gaze and not look freely at the opposite gender, the opposite sex, while you're watching OSN, Rotana, NBC 24/7. This contradicts. You have to walk the talk. So the biggest and the best way of calling people to Islam is through your actions and character. Once they see you honest, do not lie, do not abuse, you come to work on time, you leave on time, you fulfill your duties at work, you never cheat, you never people, and you're honest, you never lie, you never break a promise, they attribute this to your religion. And you must possess the necessary knowledge. You will, whenever you make da'wah to people and calling them to Islam, you'll be faced with a flood of questions. If you don't have the knowledge to back this up, then either you will answer wrongly or you'll keep on saying, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, and you will not give da'wah properly. When you have knowledge of the Quran and of the Sunnah, if someone tells you, why does this have to be this way and that has to be in that way? In this case, you can easily answer them through the Quran, through the Sunnah, and through logic, which they understand more, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Fabio says, I'm 17 years old and I struggle with anxiety. And recently I found out about hypnotherapy. And I heard that it helps a lot with mental problems. Is it halal to seek treatment in this way? The issue of hypnotism or hypnosis, I don't know which one is the noun, who cares? The issue is controversial. Now, I cannot give you a fatwa on this topic because I was not ever involved in it. I did not do my research in it. I did not see it. Maybe we've seen few clips or clipses here and there, but it's just like in the circus. It has no reality to it. But if you go to, for example, the Permanent Committee of IFTA in Saudi Arabia, they say that this is totally prohibited and most likely that they utilize the jinn, they have this and that to do with the jinn backing them up and controlling the one hypnotized and making him say things, do things, sometimes speak in tongues, and claim to know the unseen. Without doubt, this is from jinn, and utilizing jinn is shirk, and this is prohibited. Others say that this is not actually utilizing the jinn, but rather it is making the person himself come up with such healing processes or helping in identifying things that were in the past, etc. And they give an example of the placebo. So the placebo is based on delusion, based on convincing yourself that you're being healed and cured when you're not. And they give the example of a person who had asthma and he went into a hotel room and in the middle of the night he got an asthma attack. So he tried to turn on the lights, he couldn't. He could not breathe. So he started touching the walls and he was suffocating. And when he sensed the cold glass, he broke it and then started to breathe normally. And when he woke up in the morning, he discovered that he did not break the glass. Actually, he broke the wall clock. But he managed to breathe. So they say that this is the power that people are convinced themselves. And they say that hypnosis or hypnotism is under this category. Personally, I believe that this is not true. And there or this is not part of the means of healing that Allah has prescribed for us, whether it is Shar'i means, meaning of healings of Quran, of ruqya, of honey, of cupping, of black seed, etc., or the medical and worldly type of healing, such as antibiotics, surgeries, medication. So these two are legit. When it comes to things that are supernatural or from the other side, or something that has no scientific justification, this becomes under the prohibited form, and I believe that this type is part of it, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Muddathir from Saudi Arabia.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Samtullah.
I have a question.
Yes.
My son, 5-year-old, he goes to school. They have an option, like if I pay the fees full for complete year, for example, I will be paying just 10,000 Saudi Riyal. But if I pay in terms of 4 terms separately, then it adds up to more than 10,000. It's, for example, 12,000.
Okay.
So if I pay completely for 1 year 10,000, the 2,000 which I save, is it riba?
Okay, I will answer you.
I have another question.
Yes.
Is there, if you can guide me, an authentic place where I can send my kids to learn Quran and Arabic in Al-Khubar?
Okay.
If you can maybe know some place which is authentic where I can trust and send my kids for studying Arabic and Quran.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Hayyakallah. Muddathir from Saudi Arabia, he says that in the school of his children, they have 2 schemes. You want to pay cash for the whole year, you pay 10,000 riyals. You want to pay in installments every quarter, then the fee would be a little bit more. So he's saying that if I pay for a whole year, saving the 2,000 riyals, would that be riba? The answer is no. There's no borrowing and lending so that we can say that this is riba. This is my pen, huh? This is my pen. It's not, it's a studio's, but let's assume it's mine. Someone comes to me and says, Sheikh, how much you want to sell this for? And I say, 1 riyal. He said, okay, thank you. Another person comes and says, how much you want to sell this for, Sheikh? I said, 2 riyals. He has no right to say, why are you selling it to him for a riyal and for me for 2 riyals? So this is my pen. I can sell it for 10 riyals. You want it, you buy it. You don't want it, up to you. Likewise, this school. The school tells you, if you want to pay over a duration of a year, then this is a 10,000 riyals one time you pay. If you want to pay every 3 months, then we will make that into 2,750 instead of 2,500, which is the quarterly fee. This is up to them. It's according to you in what you agree. So if you agree in the beginning, and I'll pay cash, khalas, pay 10,000. And the rest is yours. As for his second question, is there any special place to teach children Quran and Arabic in Al-Khubar? I have no idea, whether in Khubar or Jeddah or Riyadh, but those who know are the Jaliyat offices. So the Dawah centers, they have classes for grown-ups, but they can direct you to special centers or to special qaris who would come and teach your children Arabic and Quran, inshallah, and they, inshallah, will be directing you to trusted places, inshallah. This is all the time we have. Until we meet same time next week, I leave you fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
A is for Allah, nothing but Allah. Ba is the beginning of Bismillah. Ta is for taqwa, bewaring of Allah. And Tha is for thawab, a reward. Ja is for Jannah, the garden of paradise. Ha is for Hajj, the blessed pilgrimage. Kha is for Khatam, the seal of the prophethood given to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.